Hello everyone, it's SpawnPoiint and welcome back to another video. So if you've recently picked up or you're looking to buy a PlayStation 5, you might be interested in which headset to go for. So over the last 3 weeks, I've actually been using both the Pulse 3D and the Astro A20 Gen 2s. Now both of these are compatible with the PS5 and they're both at a very similar price point as well. So before buying both of these, I couldn't decide which one I wanted and there were no other reviews online on YouTube that I could find comparing them both side by side. So I bought both to test both, and off the back of that, I'm obviously creating this video as well. So I am going to do a quick unboxing, then I will compare the main features, the microphones, the sound, the pros, the cons, the overall style, and finally which one that I will be keeping. So first up, the Pulse 3D headset. Now these are about £90 or $100. So inside the box we get the headset, we get a manual and a quick start guide, we get a USB-C charging cable that we'll use to plug that into the PS5, we get a 3.5mm headphone jack and you can plug that into your controller if you don't want to use wireless, and you get a USB adapter as well if you do choose the wireless option. And this is everything that you get with the Pulse 3D kit. And then next up, the Astro A20 headset. So these are the Gen 2 version, and these cost £100 or about $120. Now I have previously had the A50s, and the only real reason that I'm not using the A50s on the PS5 is the HDMI adapter that Astro released. Well, that's limited to HDMI 2.0 rather than 2.1. So inside the box we get the setup instructions and the manual, we get the USB-C cable which we'll use to charge it, we get a USB dongle which is what we'll use to make it wireless, and then we get the headset itself, and that's pretty much it. So that's everything that you get included with the A20s, and as you can see there's no 3.5mm jack, as it is just a wireless headset, you cannot use this wired. So taking a closer look at the two headsets, starting with the Pulse 3D. So first impressions are, it looks really nice. Now obviously it's on brand with the black and white theme of the PlayStation 5 and obviously the controller. So this is something we're familiar with and it does look really nice. So the outer edge is a hard plastic, so there's no movement or flex at all with this. And then the inner piece here, well, this is just a soft rubbery texture. Now this is the part that will actually rest on the top of your head, and this will move up and down to accommodate the size of your head. Now there's no sliding parts at all here. As you can see here, it just moves up and down as you stretch it. So as you stretch the headset will then increase in size. And there's also, if you look on the inside here, there's a small L and a small letter R as well. So you can see obviously what side that you should be wearing it on. So the outside of the cups are a hard plastic as well, and there's got some soft foam or almost fake leather kind of feel to these ear cups as well. Now these feel nice, they're really soft. I don't know how kind of hard wearing they will be. I feel like these will crack and they will possibly even flake off in the future. So that'll be interesting to see. You've got some nice branding on the side as well. So you've got a small PlayStation logo here. But yeah, these look really nice. I think they look clean, they look minimal. Obviously they're on brand with the PlayStation 5 and the DualSense accessories, so these look great. Now one thing to point out though is the build quality. I'll be honest, these don't feel great. They really don't. They definitely look far nicer than the way that they feel. They feel quite cheap. So obviously I know they're only about £100 or £99 or so, but they definitely feel a lot cheaper than the way that they look. Okay, so now taking a look at the Astro A20s. Well, straight away you can see this looks totally different. I mean, they clearly look like a gaming headset. So it's still got the white and the black theme going on, and if you go for the A20s in the PS5 version, which obviously you will, then you've got the nice blue accents instead of green if you were to go for the Xbox version. I think it looks fresh, but it's definitely very gaming focused. So there's plenty of branding on this headset as well. So you can clearly see here that it is an Astro headset. You've got the logo across the top, and this is a hard plastic band. Now on the sides again, you've got more branding, you've got the colours. They look really nice as well. So you've got a little bit of like a blue accent going on here because obviously it's the PS5 version. Now to adjust the band on this headset, well, it's the same as what we're used to seeing on other headsets as well. So the band just moves up and down. So there's a slider on each side, and you can just adjust that obviously to the heights that you need to accommodate your head. So you just pull it up, or you can push it down to increase or decrease the size that best fits you. Now the ear cups on this headset, they're different. These are actually fabric rather than foam. So they are really soft. And to be honest, they feel so much nicer when you're wearing them as well, at least compared to the Pulse 3D. So yeah, I really like these. Now on the inside, once again, we've got the small letters here to indicate which one or which side you should be wearing this headset on. So you've got the small L and the small letter R as well. So comparing the two side by side, you can really see the difference in style. Now I like them both for different reasons. I think the Pulse 3D looks cleaner. I think it's a lot more minimal looking. I love the lack of branding. I really like that kind of look. Now the Astros, they still look great. And they obviously look like a gaming headset. So if you've come from using other Astro headsets or Turtle Beach and other brands and so on, then obviously this is a kind of a style that we're all used to seeing. But visually, I do prefer the Pulse 3Ds. I really do. But on build quality alone, that lets it down. So the Astro A20s on build quality alone, when you're feeling these, feel like a better headset. They feel like they will last you a lot longer. So taking a quick look at the buttons. So on the side of the headset, you can control the sound from these small buttons. So there's one small button here, and this controls the volume between the chat and the in-game sound that you can hear. So just by pressing up or down here. And then you can also decide whether you want to monitor or hear your own voice. Now I usually have this on, as it does definitely stop me from shouting when I'm talking. Then there's the overall volume control, and this is what you can swipe up and down. And then you've got the mute button. So this you can toggle on and off just by pressing it. Now visually you can obviously see when it's muted because you've got the little orange accent pops out. And as it is popped out, you can also feel it when you're playing a game and you kind of rest your hand on it and you can tell whether you've muted it or not. Then there's a USB-C port, and this is what we'll use to charge the headset. And then you've got the 3.5mm jack, and this is what we will use to plug it into the controller if we're not using the wireless option. And finally the power button. So once this is on, you will also get a small LED, and this will light up on the side of the headset. So now taking a look at the Astro A20 buttons, and by comparison there's a lot fewer buttons. So the first one you've got here is the power button on the side, and this will then light up with a small LED underneath when it's switched on. Then you've also got a button which switches between 3 EQ presets. So what you do is you tap the button here and it will swap between 3 options. And you can tell which one you're on because you can actually hear a beep in your ear. And you'll either hear 1, 2 or 3 beeps, and that will then be dependent on which EQ preset you've selected. And at the bottom you've got the infinite scroll wheel, and this will allow you to control the volume between the game sound and the voice chat sound as well. So you just scroll that until you obviously find that perfect sound. And then underneath that you've got a USB-C charging port as well. So with the Pulse 3D headset, you can either use them wired or wireless. If you choose to use them wired, you just need to use the provided 3.5mm jack. You plug one end into the headset and use the other end into the controller. And that's it, so nothing needs powering on because you're just using the controller to actually power the headset. Or if you'd rather use the wireless option, you just need to use the USB adapter that's been provided. You plug that into the front of the PlayStation 5, you turn the headset on, and it will then connect. It's pretty easy. Now there is also an option to sync the two together, so if you need to sync the headset to the USB dongle, you may need to do so. I didn't need to, it just connected straight away. And then once connected, you will then see the headset icon and the battery icon appear on screen. Now one thing to note though is when you're using the wired option, you won't be able to control the headset using the buttons on the side of the headset anymore. They just won't allow you to change anything at all because the headset isn't actually powered on. You'll then need to use the settings on the PlayStation if you want to adjust your sound and your levels. Whereas if you're using the headset wirelessly, we can then use the buttons on the side of the headset, and obviously that will then allow you to change the volume and the mute and so on. And it will actually then show settings on screen as well, so you can actually see how far you've increased or decreased the volume just by a little icon on screen. And the same if you mute it, and that'll also show on screen at the top. And the same as if you turn your headset off, it will then come up on screen and it will then say it's been disconnected. Now one thing that is annoying about using the headset wirelessly is if you press the mute button on your DualSense controller instead, it won't actually mute the headset, which in my opinion, well it should do because these two are PlayStation accessories, and they should definitely allow you to mute the headset just by pressing the option on the controller. Then looking at the Astro A20s. Now this is only available in a wireless option, so there's no option here to plug this into your controller. Now it does come with a USB adapter again, and once again this will need to be plugged into the front of the PS5. Now once plugged in, it will then turn blue. Now there is also a sync button on the top. Now I didn't need to use this as the headset did connect straight away, but if you are having issues, just make sure you press this button first. Now I mentioned that while I was using the Pulse 3D headset in wireless mode, the mute button on the controller had no control over the headset at all. In fact, it actually showed an error on screen. Whereas with the Astro A20s, it actually works. So by pressing the mute button on the controller, you are able to mute the headset as well, which is incredible really, considering it is a third-party accessory. But using both headsets in wireless mode has caused no issues at all. So whether I've used them in wired or wireless, in no point has the connection dropped or the sound dropped during any gameplay at all. I've been very impressed with both for that reason. Now what surprises me is that both of these headsets need a USB adapter plugged into the actual console itself. So seeing these long USB sticks sticking out the front of the console all the time when you need to use it, it just looks cheap, it just looks really poor. Now obviously the Astro A20s, you could say, well that's fine because it's a third-party accessory, you know, they need to use one, that's fine. But the Pulse 3D, I mean to be honest, there's no excuse. The headset or the console should have been designed in a way that meant it didn't need one of these USB adapters. So charging both of these headsets is pretty straightforward. They obviously both come with a USB-C cable, so you just plug that into the headset itself, and then just plug it into a USB port, so for example on the front of the console. Now the Pulse 3D is rated at 12 hours battery life, and the Astro A20s comes in at 15 hours, so both very similar, and from my testing so far, they really have lasted up to that very, very closely. Now one thing you'll notice about the two headsets is that only one of them has an external microphone. So the A20s, well, they have the usual microphone arm that you would expect to see, and it just moves up and down as you'd expect. And if you move it all the way up, it will then turn the microphone off completely, and it will mute it as well, so you don't need to press any buttons to do that. And it also means you can actually adjust how close or how far you want the microphone away from your mouth when you're talking. Whereas the Pulse 3D headset, as you can see, it doesn't have a microphone arm at all. So the microphone is actually built into the headset with these very small holes instead. Now this obviously looks great and it's a lot more compact. Now the problem with this is it definitely impacts the sound that it creates. So the audio quality, or the microphone audio quality, just isn't quite as good. Well, it's not anywhere near as good. So everything sounds further away. Everything sounds a little bit kind of quiet in comparison, almost echoey. So if you're coming from using headsets with a microphone arm, then you will be disappointed with the Pulse 3D, I can guarantee that. The A20s though, by comparison, it does a far better job of minimizing other noises in the room as well. So if you're in a room with other people talking, for example, especially while you're gaming, then the A20s are definitely a better option for this. But your voice will sound a little bit more compressed if you're comparing it to, say, some A50s or Astro A40s. Now on to the sound, the only real reason that you're looking to buy a headset. So I really only use my headsets when I'm playing online, and that's so I can hear my friends as I'm obviously hearing the game sound as well. Now I rarely use headsets for single player games or when I'm offline playing, because I'd rather use the speakers in my room. Now sound is also subjective. Now that means what sounds good to me might not sound good for you. Now just so you know, I have been using the Astro A50s for the last couple of years, and I think they sound incredible. Okay, so I'm obviously comparing these two headsets side by side. I'm going to try and highlight the pros and the cons of both in terms of the sound. And this is from playing games like Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Cold War, Need for Speed Heat, and a few others as well. Now, the only way that I can describe the Pulse 3Ds is they sound very, very flat. Now, there's no bass. It's really, really strange. Now, you might think, well, that's fine, and that's fine, but they're not punchy either. They're very flat. It's really hard to explain. So during games like Cold War, for example, I could hear footsteps. There was no denying that. I could hear the footsteps. I could hear where they were coming from. It was very, very directional. There was no issue with that at all. But when there were any kind of explosions or gunfire and things like that, it was just flat. There was just nothing to it at all. Now, anything you'd expect bass from, there was just nothing there. Now, because there's no EQ settings, you can't actually edit the headset at all in any shape or form. It meant you couldn't just increase the bass, which I would have said was the biggest issue with this headset. Voice chat in games was quite poor as well. So while I was playing online with a few friends as well, and they also had the Pulse 3Ds on, it sounded quite echoey, and our voices, as I mentioned earlier with the microphones, they sounded quite far away. They felt really, really distant. Now, this is obviously down to the microphone, the way that it's built. There's no microphone arm at all, so the quality was never going to be as good. Also, the Sony Pulse 3Ds, well, they're marketed as 3D sound, which makes you think, well, that's the headset that's doing that. It's the headset that's providing that 3D functionality, but it isn't. That's not the case. It's actually provided by the console, not from the headset. Okay, so now looking at the Astro A20s. So as soon as I turned these on, within a few days of receiving them, they sounded so much better. They really did. Full of bass, and they instantly changed the entire experience of my gameplay. They actually sounded enjoyable. So the sound is clearer, it's punchier, it's a lot sharper as well, but it sounds so much fuller. Now, it's obviously nowhere near as good as the A50s that I had on the PS4, but it is 100% better than the Pulse 3D. Now, they can go pretty loud as well, so there's no problems with turning these up if you need to hear footsteps and so on. But they're directional, they're really precise. You can pinpoint every sound around you, as you would expect. So you can hear the footsteps, you can hear gunfire wherever it's coming from. Now, I've been really, really impressed with this headset. And considering how cheap it is as well, so it is only about £100 or $120, for this price point, it is absolutely incredible. And as we said, the microphone is so much better as well, because you've got the mic arm, you can obviously have it closer to your mouth or further away. It sounds so much clearer, and you can flip it up as well when you want to mute it, so it's a lot easier to do it that way. And the ability to swap between the 3 EQ settings as well on the headset, just by tapping that button on the side, you can flick between option 1, 2 and 3. Now, coming from using the Astro A50s, you could actually plug your headset into your laptop or into your Mac, for example, and you can actually change the EQ settings. And that allowed you to change various options. You can actually tweak the settings. There was kind of like an audio profile depending on the game modes that you were playing. Now, this obviously worked on the A50s, it worked on the A40s, it even works on the original Gen 1 A20s as well. But unfortunately, at the moment, the Gen 2 A20s, it doesn't work at all. It's not supported. So I have plugged it into my laptop, and it's just not recognized at all. And again, doing a little bit of reading online, it's suggesting that it's not supported yet. I'm not sure if it ever will be. Now, that's a massive disappointment, because I was expecting, especially with the EQ button on the side that you can flick between, you'll be able to plug it into your laptop, and you can then obviously tweak those settings for you and for your game modes. But unless that changes in the future, and if it does, drop those in the comments as well. But at the moment, you cannot use the A20 Gen 2 with the Astro Command Center. So overall, if you want a headset that looks really clean and really minimal, go for the Pulse 3D. That's pretty much the only reason you should choose the Sony Pulse 3D headset on looks alone. That's literally it. But if you want a better sound, better build quality, better microphone, and just all-round better headset, you've got to go for the A20s, you really do. Now, price-wise, I think the A20s are worth the £100 or $120 price tag, whereas the Pulse 3D, you're really paying for the brand. I think you're paying for the PS5 branding. The fact is, if you want everything to look the same, you're obviously going to go for the Pulse 3D, but you're not really paying for the quality at all. Now, I like Sony. If you follow my channel, you know how much I like Sony products, and I obviously love the PlayStation 5. But the A20s are better than the Pulse 3D for a like-for-like comparison. So yeah, if you can, I would definitely go for the Astro A20s over the Pulse 3D. Now that's what I'm using, and that's what I will continue to use. I will now probably sell the Pulse 3Ds, so I've got no intention of keeping those, so I will definitely sell those on as second hand. And hopefully we'll see some more PS5 compatible A50s in the future as well. So I'd love to get back into using the A50s on the PS5. So hopefully we'll definitely see that next year. It'd be great to have the Dolby digital sound back again, which obviously we don't get with the A20s. And what do you think? If you've already picked up a PlayStation 5 or either of these two headsets, what do you think and which ones have you gone for? And if you've not decided which one to go for, does my opinion today or my experience so far between the two headsets sway you either way? And you've just made it to the end of this comparison video, so thank you very much for watching. And if you drop a PS5 headset in the comments, I'll give you a thumbs up because I know you've made it to the end of this ridiculously long comparison video. And I hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to hit that like button as it does help me out. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And you can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Until next time.